All right, here it is, day 7 of Vlogmas, and I am pressing out the fabric panels. I didn't press them before I cut them because I was following the pattern. So every panel is cut on the same, like I would cut here on every single one of them. So when they're hanging, they'll look all like one. So that's how they're going to look when they're hanging. And so now I need to iron the lining before I cut it because I want it to fit perfect on there. And I had debated whether to remove the selvage or not. And I think I'm going to leave it and just sew along the selvage so I can keep as much of the width as I can to cover that window really well. Because you usually want 1.5 times the width of the window, and I'm not going to have quite that much, but I think it'll still be fine to give me good coverage. And so my day is going to be making drapes. They've told me my curtain rod, though, to put them up won't be here until the 14th. But if I get them made, they'll be made, and when the rod arrives, I can just hang them up. So this is how I'm starting this day. We've already eaten breakfast and herded cats and fed the dog and that kind of stuff. So now I can focus on this for a couple hours, and then I'll have to start midday meal. So gotta get to it. All right, I've got the lining face up on the table, and then I got my panel face down. Every panel will look exactly like this because I was really careful about cutting. So you can see there's the lining. And I've got a bunch of pins in it, and I'm going to do one panel at a time simply because this is the biggest space I have without getting on the floor, and my back's just not saying it can do the floor today. So now I need to, before I can sew around this, at the top, all of my panel pieces, the design will have the tips pointing toward the top. So when you're sewing, always make sure your fabric's going in the same direction, or it'll be quite obvious if you've got one panel upside down when they're hanging. So always make sure you pick a direction for your fabric to be, and always put the top of a curtain, your shoulder seam or your waistband that way, toward the top of this. So your design always goes in the right direction, so you don't have like half of a leg going up and half of the leg going down. That's just a note to keep in mind if you get into sewing. So I went ahead and I pinned along, but I'm going to make tabs to go about every 6 inches along the top. Maybe. I'm going to measure this now and divide it up. I probably want 1 on each corner, 1 in the center, and 2 in between. So that would be 3, yeah, it would be 7 tabs. So I need 7 tabs. I need to make those next, and those will be made with strips cut 4.5 by 8.5 inches, and I will fold them in half, stitch down the long side, turn them right side out, press them really good with the seam to the inside of the tab so you don't see the seam when you insert it, and I'll show you how to insert those when I get them made. Okay guys, I decided to just make myself a pattern, which is sheet of cardstock is 8.5 inches wide, so I just cut a 4.5 inch strip off an 8.5 inch by 11 piece of cardstock, and I put this on here, direction of design, because you don't want this to run this way, because when you sew your tab in half, then this is what you'd have, and it would go opposite of your panel. So there's my panel, but I want my tabs to come up off the curtain like this, and then this will fold over. Okay, so if I had my pattern down and I cut it the other way, my design on my tabs would not be going in the same direction, and it would be quite obvious with a directional print. So I made myself a pattern. I am not going to try to match to the design at the top of it exactly, because that would be difficult to do. because I'm not real sure where I'm going to place these. But as long as my direction's going in the same direction, I'm okay. So if I really wanted to try to make them match, it would be hard because the design on here is at an angle and these will be straight. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to line this up with the edge of the selvage. You can see the selvage looks different. So I'm going to line this up like that, and I'm just going to cut individual ones. Just cut one, move it down, cut one, and just go down, or maybe just come this way. I'll come this way, and then that way I'm not wasting fabric. I'll just come across the width of the fabric, and I'm just going to start cutting tabs and just keep cutting them until I have enough for all of the curtains. What I might do is fold it in half, selvage to selvage, and then cut my tabs out 2 at a time instead of a single at a time, just to save a little time. Anyway, back to it. All right, so I have 28 tabs. That's 7 tabs for 4 panels. And what I'll do now is I'm going to go to the machine and just fold these in half, I guess the hot dog way. And I'm just going to stitch all along the edge, 1/4 of an inch. I'm only going to leave, do 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on these tabs. Then I've got to take the time and turn them right side out. Once they're turned right side out, this seam I'm going to fold so it's right in the center of the back of when it's flattened out. So it would be back here, like so. And so when you fold it in half, let me do that this way. Just pretend I've already sewed it. When I fold it in half like this, I'm going to want the tabs to all have this toward the outside facing where the curtain panel is, so that they all continue pointing up and over the rod. You don't want to put them in like this because then they'd be pointing down toward the curtain. And so that you just have to pay attention to your direction of your print so you continue the same direction. All right, we'll come back after I get one sewn together so I can show you guys what it looks like and how I press it. Lunch break. So we're going to have salmon patties, and I didn't have any onion, and I forgot the celery. So it's just a basic canned salmon, an egg, some salt and pepper, and some saltine crackers. And that's been set in the refrigerator for a while, and then made into patties and fried in the pan there. The roasted vegetables are butternut squash, white potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. And then we had some leftover wild rice that we have to eat today, or it has to be thrown away. So that's lunch. Lunch break. All right, it's gotten quite late now, and I've finished one of my panels. I will do a thorough pressing to make sure the edges are nice and crisp, you know, and even. And then I'm going to top stitch along the edge because I top stitched on my tabs that I put in just real close to the edge so that they'll stay nice and flat. And you can see what I meant about the little things pointing up just like they are on the actual panel. And I have my turning hole on the other side that I need to close too, but that will be closed after I've done a thorough pressing. And when I top stitch, I will catch this closed here. So that's one panel, and I've got 3 more to go. I got a little, I don't know, this might straighten out. It's like it's tilted in, like the tab twisted a little, but I think I can make it work just like that. I don't want to take it out, basically. So 3 more like that, and the big window will be covered. And then I'll work on something for in the dining room area here. And I'll push my chairs back in. I'm going to be recovering the chairs too. I have some green tone-on-tone that I'm going to use for the chairs. But that's another project for another day. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.